email was the original social media.
And then email is having a renaissance.
No matter how good your damn content is, people just get busy. So massive CPMs and big things, it's just, it's not going to happen.
You can actually adjust the offer you're making to close that deal at a higher percentage. That's a key area of revenue.
If Google did change their algorithm tomorrow, how would that affect you guys over at QZ? And where would you have to shimmy and shake and try to find your way through?
I actually think we have like a once in a generation, call it opportunity or challenge. AI is changing everything. Literally how you do anything. Media companies can adapt to that, or they can become the Washington Post. Those are really your options right now. And so we have to make sure that we're providing the product that our audience is ready for.
Welcome back to another episode of Audience Rich Insights. Today, I have an industry veteran, Armando Roggio, who's the Vice President of Audience Development at Duplex, which is the owner of a number of things, including the popular Quartz.com, QZ.com, but Quartz media property, which is very popular out there. He's obviously, like I said, been in the industry a while. You can probably tell from his beard. I'm probably aging myself too. How's it going?
It's going really well. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Nice. Oh, a little disclaimer, just so people know, Armando and QZ are clients of ours. So just want to put that out there so there's no biased whatever going on there if anyone has questions about that. But before we really get into it, you want to go ahead and give us a little background about yourself and what you've been doing and how you ended up at Quartz.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am old. That was the first thing you noted. So that's given me a little bit of time to move through the industry for a while. So I won't go all the way back because, back when we were doing things on paper, et cetera. But most recently, I am with Duplex. We acquired Quartz last year and have been making that part of a modern media business, if you will. Prior to that, I have experience in retail, extensive experience in e-commerce. I actually worked in the semiconductor industry for a while. I was part of the Hearst organization, as in William Randolph Hearst Corporation. So again, I had the opportunity to have a broad spectrum of things. And then probably most recently which is relevant to what we're talking about, I was at an email service provider. So I worked for ConvertKit, now Kit, and was able to see the inside of the ESP.
Awesome. What if you just can describe what you believe the current state of digital media is in 2026?
So I actually think we have like a once in a generation, call it opportunity or challenge, depending on how you want to look at it. But AI is changing everything. Literally how you do anything, from accounting to content to whatever it is. And media companies can, they can adapt to that, or they can become the Washington Post. Those are really your options right now. And I think if you look at it as an opportunity, you can be the innovator who really defines what's next in the media business for decades to come.
Nice. Definitely do not want to be the Washington Post.
Sorry to Bezos. I know he's got
whatever. He's not losing sleep over it. Trust me.
Yeah, it's a rounding error, I'm sure.
Maybe from the waves on his 120 foot yacht or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure you get waves on the yacht that size.
No, it's much bigger than 120 feet too. I kind of shortchanged them there.
And I shouldn't have picked on them a little bit because it is a challenge. I feel bad for those folks, but I do think that the industry is moving away from that model, and you have to adapt.
So talking about the new media landscape and obviously AI and all its impact across content, algorithms, everything you can think of. What do you think is more fragile right now? SEO, paid traffic, social distribution, or email?
More fragile. Boy, that's tough. I think SEO could be the most fragile right now. I don't think enough has settled for us to really understand what works consistently now. I think you have SEO, you have answer engine optimization, you have generative engine optimization, you have Google Discover optimization, you have all these sort of sub-segments that are trying to figure out how to keep up with the changing landscape. And so obviously we consult with SEO consultants, et cetera. And really, it doesn't seem to me like anyone has the same level of confidence about how to drive traffic that they did in the past. I do think that social is also a changing dynamic. In the past in audience development, social was pretty much a given. Like you could use social to drive audience consistently. significantly. I think from an organic perspective, that's less true. But I do think, however, that both paid and email are still predictable. Maybe paid, you're not seeing the return on advertising spend that you saw before, but you are still able to, build campaigns, get a predictable result, and understand if that result meets your criteria for acquisition cost, et cetera, and then double down when it does. And then email, I think, is having a renaissance. Very excited about email. There was a report that came out, the Pew Research Center actually published something that I think said about 30% of Americans actually get at least a portion of their news from an email newsletter, as opposed to all those other channels you talked about. So very bullish on email, very capable of working and happy with paid. And then I think that social and SEO are a little bit in flux right now. How does that equate to what you hear from others?
That's pretty good. I mean, now you also have you have the AI aspect and everyone asking the AI for stuff. So how much is that taken away from search? And I know they were launching the paid ads or something through like ChatGPT. They were trying to test. Thought I saw something that said they might be scrapping it just because it's like, I don't know, you're using AI and now it's gonna be biased if you're paying for ads. I'm like, what are you really showing the people? But I guess search went through that kind of dilemma too. So
I don't think you have to be biased. I mean, we're beta testing right now ads in chat. So there's a QZ chat module that we're showing to part of the traffic. It's not full traffic on QZ.com, but for some of the traffic, you'll get it. It suggests a couple of prompts to dig deeper into the editorial that you're looking at. And then there are ads in there, but the ads are not influencing in any way the output of the chat. What they are is similar to some other ad formats where they're meant to add, contextual value,
right,
as opposed to influence the chat. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out. It doesn't show like for everyone. So if you don't see it, you're not going to see it because you're not in the right cohort. But
now is that ad platform just from you guys putting your own ads, or is it, you're pulling them in from either ChatGPT's got the platform for it, or is it from Google, or like where are the ads coming from?
That's one of those things we can't actually disclose right now.
There you go.
So,
secret sauce. Hey,
that's some secret
good
sauce there. But
you guys are on cutting edge over there. Perfect.
We try. Yeah.
Well, if Google did change their algorithm tomorrow, how would that affect you guys over at QZ? And where would you have to kind of shimmy and shake and try to find your way through?
I mean, it would have a massive impact on us, right? So we still get a significant amount of our traffic is from organic, a lot of it from Google Discover, a lot of it from Google News. So it would have a massive impact if something pushed us out algorithmically. I think that we are in a good position because of our parent company, Duplex, and the products that Duplex has. We can derive a certain amount of traffic and page discovery, content discovery through the core product. I definitely think we would go to email and paid if we had no other options in search. As I said, I think those are the channels right now that are the most controllable, most predictable. We already do a fair amount of traffic from our newsletter business. It's not enough that I'd say we didn't care about organic, right, but it's not nothing either.
Well, you know what, I was there. The smart thing to do was that they had this thing that you could identify this traffic, sort of pixel you put on the website, and like all this organic traffic's coming, you start capturing it, so you can start reaching out to them in case they did shut off that spigot.
Yes,
that'd be cool.
That is a product of yours that we use. So yeah, I think that's a lot of your products are named Smart, and I do think in this market, Smart Pixel is a product you should be looking at. It's been one of our, in terms of cost to revenue ratio, it's probably our top producer. So I think the thing that folks have to think about is match rate, right? It's not going to be all of the traffic that you see. But it's a great tool, and
that's our secret sauce of that product, right? We're not giving you everyone; we're just giving you the ones that our system feels is going to be the ideal match that's going to want to stay on, subscribe, and interact with your stuff, knowing seeing what they're doing on the site currently and things like that. So where some of our competitors are just basically sending you anyone who matches, right? They don't know if that's. Plus, we're all email centric over here, so like we know which of the primary email addresses of the people that are out there, and that's who we're using to identify things.
Yeah, I think also the way that the tool adds in them, right? So it's at a pace where you're making sure that you've got sustainable growth through that particular part of the subscriber growth mix. So yeah, been pretty happy with it.
When you're looking at your data acquisition, whether it be the smart pixel, whether it be Facebook, Google, whatever channel you're using. What are you guys looking at? What are you looking at, as the head of audience development? What's your KPIs or what you're looking for to make sure that source is a quality source?
So ultimately, what we're trying to do is earn money on the subscribers on a lifetime value basis, right? So we want to be able to sell sponsorships, have ads on our site and have the cost of acquisition be significantly lower than the average LTV. So what we're looking for is an engaged subscriber, not just an open. We need someone who clicks on sponsorship ads, who clicks through to our website where we have ad revenue. That's our sort of holy grail of someone. They open at a high rate, they engage with us by clicking, and ultimately they also migrate to our other newsletters. So we have our flagship newsletter, which is where we put in a lot of our growth. Yep. And then we're always encouraging folks to try some of our other newsletters to extend that LTV. But that's, for us, it's really, are they clicking? And what percentage of them are clicking is the number one factor.
Before I met you, actually helped you out a little bit on the deliverability side of things. What surprised you the most about deliverability once we started digging into it?
Well, I mean, deliverability for us has become, I would say, excellent overall. Some of it was just how simple, like the way, that I found you, if you will, was actually a podcast that you had done. Sure. Saw the podcast, reached out a little bit, got some feedback on how to organize our sending segments, et cetera. And so I guess the big takeaway was something I already knew, but that you really hit home for us was how important it is to keep only active subscribers on that list, right, to really cull out anyone who isn't opening, isn't clicking. In our case, across all of our newsletters, that meant not sending to 700,000 people, which is a lot. But the ultimate thing that we learned is that had zero impact on our major KPI. Our clicks, the actual number of clicks did not drop because those people weren't clicking anyway. And what we saw was, a tripling of the open rate in some cases for the newsletter. And ultimately, I think it's a better product because of it. Curiously too, I think one of the things that people are afraid of when you suggest to them that they create a base sending segment and that they only send to active users is like, hey, my overall subscriber count is going down. No one's going to want to sponsor the newsletter or whatever. Right. What I found is when we tell potential sponsors what we do to keep the list active and engaged, they're far more impressed than they would have been by the additional, subscribers. They're more impressed that we're paying that kind of attention to deliverability, to, engagement, et cetera. And I think it's actually a better selling.
Yeah, I mean, and I've had a couple of different conversations on the podcast with different people and talking about like everyone's so focused and bent on this whole what's the CPM rate of the buy, what's the CPM rate, instead of just it's a flat purchase. Hey, if you want access to my audience, it's $3,000 or it's $5,000 or it's $1,000, it's $500, whatever it is. Like you're gonna know what you're gonna get back if it works or not, right? Then they'll keep on going if not. But when you try to artificially inflate your numbers, you can always say like you're gonna approximately get this many clicks. That's all you care about. How much traffic are they gonna actually get? They don't even know that's going to 500,000 people or 300,000 people. It's like, ads are, you'll probably get 1,500 clicks, and then that's what you're shooting for. If you get 1,500 clicks sending to 50,000 people, or you get 1,500 clicks sending to 500,000 people, they're not going to care, nor do they need to know. So if you can, and I think the industry slowly will start going that direction, just because the inbox is getting that much harder to get in. So people are going to have to continue to follow these best practices. So it's going to be harder and harder to grow these massive lists. So massive CPMs and big things, it's just, it's not going to happen. So very happy you guys, went that route, and it helps with everything else you're doing, because now all this investment you're doing on other growth, these Facebook campaigns you're doing, all this other stuff. Prior, you probably get less engagement and activation off these new people because your deliverability just wasn't there. And then it hurts you as you try to scale. And you're like, oh no, we're going to put more money to get more people in. And it actually gets worse and worse and worse as things rolling downhill. But now when you have that baseline, people see it, they're like, oh my God, my activations rates went from like 10% to like 40% of people now becoming clickers off of my acquisition or whatever that number is.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's also the case that you don't actually lose those folks, right? We also use, of course, smart reactivation. So just because we've moved someone out of the base sending segment doesn't mean that we've sort of lost them entirely, right? What we're doing is then picking the right time to re-engage them add them back in the list at a very low cost. So yeah, I think it's part of a bigger strategy that looks a little bit counterintuitive if all you're looking at is that top line number, but in reality, it's the best practice, right?
What's the metric now that you watch, you focused on more daily than you did before?
I will say that most recently, I've been looking at the per top level domain performance. As Chris knows, because we meet every week, but we have a good ESP partner. They just added, they do a lot of development for us specifically. They added a report that we'd asked for that shows us our deliverability statistics, not just sort of in bulk, but by top level centers. So right. Gmail, Yahoo, et cetera. And since that report's been live, I probably check that too much, just to try to understand.
I mean, if you're not watching it at least once a day, you're not watching it enough. All it takes is one day for it to hit, shit to hit the fan, and then you're like, oh, what happened? Oh, we see right here.
Yep, that's the report I love. So I do hit that report every single day, and it's really interesting to me to see how from newsletter to newsletter you can have a significantly different performance between Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, etc.
100%. Unfortunately, that's how the business has been forever, especially in the ESP game, is that they show you just enough to keep you happy and make you believe things are all good and dandy in the deliverability world. So you keep on sending, because a lot of them send on volume. The more you're sending, the more money they're making. So they don't want you to stop sending and tighten up the things that I tell them to do, because they're like, oh my God, they're gonna, they're not paying anymore. So let's just bulk all delivery in one place. The general consumer isn't know any better. So we'll just put it there versus, but once you start getting serious, to a serious size or a list in general, if you don't have information, it could be detrimental, business detrimental, where you see a big chunk of your list disappear, and then you're like, where'd 100,000 people go that were making me a bunch of money? Yeah, I'm very happy when they released that. We were talking about that for months.
We were. Yeah, so super excited about that. And it's nice to have, this was, like you said, they built this for us based, frankly, on your suggestion. And it's been really good. We're about to do a redesign on one of the newsletters. And so one of the things that we're already doing is trying to understand how to roll out that redesign, making sure that, that our best audiences are in fact informed even, right? And one of the things that came up in a strategy call this morning is we're actually thinking about reaching out to our best, most engaged folks and warning them that we're doing a change and asking if there's anything they'd like to see, just so that we're making sure that when we do release the new format, that they're comfortable with it and advocates of it.
Don't be scared. I have a little thing at the bottom there. Don't be scared to whitelist us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Since we, implemented the base sending segment and stuff, and we're sending a lot, much tighter. What are you seeing as far as, or what your normal list churn looks like right now, monthly?
Yeah, so we're definitely positive on growth. Because we have the 9 different newsletters, I kind of know them more on a newsletter basis, but we are probably, to give you a ratio, we're probably, for every 3 that we're adding, we're probably churning 1 at the moment.
That's good. I mean, the lists are growing.
It is. And that's not, that doesn't take into consideration when we're able to move them from one list to another. So we have been really successful at getting folks who are on one list to join another. And then, as they may come off of one, I think that's normal behavior. I think for myself, when I sign up for a newsletter, I'm usually very excited about it at first. I'm a regular reader of it. And as time goes on, I may lose interest in that particular topic or segment, and I move on to another one. So the fact that we're already baking in migrating them from one to the other, I think also helps us.
Right. Well, don't unsubscribe from ISPs Insights, all right?
Yes, I won't. Another thing I'll say about that churn, talking about that churn, is remember that we do have those base sending segments implemented. So if someone is not active, we're turning them off very quickly.
Right. Well, that's it's exactly what you said. Is fortunately, no matter how good your damn content is, people just get busy or uninterested and with whatever they have going on, and they just lose sight of it and move on.
Yep.
Doesn't mean they didn't like it. Your stuff sucks. I mean, Morning Brew, The Hustle, all the best 1440, all these super awesome newsletters. People just stop. I stopped getting in and reading because now I'm in, maybe I'm in my sports mode. No, I'm just watching sports the whole time. I don't care about my tech news and all this stuff. So it happens to everyone. You're never gonna have a lifer. You might have 100 lifers out of your million people, but people just come and go. So that's the problem that people don't understand, and that's when your deliverability hits the fan. Since we were talking about the state of media and where you see it, where it's at and things, and you're big on email now and some other things. Do you believe or see that nowadays it's like all these media companies, and a lot of them it's like the Morning Brew media company, either Market Beat media company. Are you seeing these people that they're becoming more of a data company than just a media brand?
I think this has been something that's been going on for a number of years. That yes, you have to be a data company. The difference in knowing who is visiting the Quartz website and not knowing is a significant change. It's not like it's 5% better in revenue. It's significantly better in revenue if we know who's there. I think it also creates all sorts of ways to have a deeper relationship. One of the things that we do is we have a paid membership, like a lot of these media companies do. And part of the reason that you can do that is because you can predict someone on the site how likely they are to become a subscriber. You can actually adjust the offer you're making to close that deal at a higher percentage. That's a key area of revenue, and that is something that is about the data. So yeah, I do think you're becoming data companies. I also think that data is leading more toward sort of virtuous cycles or flywheels, if you will, where I think media companies are going to start to be able to predict what to publish in order to attract the target audience, in order to engage the target audience, much more so than we have in the past. And I think that this is not just even limited to media companies, but other industries. I also think that to some extent, we'll see more media companies also become commerce businesses of some kind. I don't know if that necessarily means e-commerce or a digital product, but I think you have seen several examples of media companies that have been able to cross over into a digital product. The one that comes to mind for me is Every. You're probably familiar with them, every.to. And they have, I'm just looking on their website here, I think they have 4 now digital products, Monologue, Sparkle, Cora, and Spiral. I think they're an early example of this, where media companies will start to offer services, start to offer software, start to offer products as part of the mix, and that there'll be a blurring of the line between pure content and pure commerce.
At Quartz, is there anything you guys are doing on the content delivery side when it comes to, the user profile or the, AI user profile to try to not target, but go more dynamic with the content on a user per user basis? So different people are seeing different articles, things that they might like better, just trying to optimize basically the inbox experience per user, which, I know some pretty big enterprises that have been able to do it very successfully. And then it's great for deliverability, obviously, because now instead of sending a, broadcast blast to 500,000 people, which is the same exact thing, everyone almost has a unique, it's almost like sending an individual email, 500,000 people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that individualization is definitely something that we're talking about. I don't know. I can't say that we're far along that path. One of the interesting things I think is, this from conversation with me, that we're experimenting with the idea of sort of micro newsletters or newsletters that are in a series where it's very niche. You are sending it to a relatively small audience that's hopefully highly engaged, and you're not sort of creating content that gets written every single week. You're creating a more of an evergreen series that can be sent, and doing that at scale. So lots and lots of sort of small audience newsletters. That's definitely something we're experimenting with, and using AI to help us identify the signals of success for the topic, etc. AI is also a very sensitive topic in the media industry because I think there's concern around how AI is implemented, particularly, with content creation itself. And so trying to be very sensitive to how we use AI as it relates to content creation specifically, to make sure that that we're not taking humans out of the loop and providing that human guide. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Is there anything, I guess, what about the AI does scare you? Obviously, the human, we're saying the human element when you're talking about content stuff. Anything else that you're worried about as far as growth goes or engagement in general?
I guess I am pretty bullish on AI in general, when I was talking about that sort of the balance there, I think that it would be easy for a media company right now to get ahead of where your audience is in terms of AI acceptance. So the thing to think about is that I'll use an analogy of a self-driving car. Self-driving cars are a reality right now. People are riding in them. Not everyone has the same level of comfort. If you have a Tesla, maybe you let it self-drive you everywhere. So to give you some context, I mentioned that I was in the semiconductor industry. So in 2007, we were testing self-driving cars. And one of the things that, we were providing semiconductors at the time for the sensory systems in those self-driving cars. So the ability to see the road, et cetera, et cetera. And from a marketing perspective, what we realized was that technically in 2007, we were ahead of the audience. So a car could drive itself then, but no one was ready to let a car drive itself. And today, a lot more people are ready for that. I think the same thing is true with AI in the media industry. AI is capable, in my opinion, producing quality content that is indistinguishable from human written content. But our audience isn't ready for that. And so we have to make sure that we're providing the product that our audience is ready for and that we're not getting ahead of them in their level of comfort, whether that's in a personalized email message or personalized content on the site. And this is something that industry's been learning a long time. Google something for fun and look at Target's early efforts in data. Target, you might remember this, but they hired a data scientist. I'm going to get some of the details wrong here, but they hired a data scientist and they actually got a complaint because their software had sent a coupon book to a young lady who was, I think, 18 or something, who lived with her father, and it was filled with things for someone who's pregnant. It was because Target had predicted that she was pregnant based on her purchasing even before she told her dad. So Target had to back off of that. That was a number of years ago because, again, the technology was ahead of where the audience was ready for it to be.
Right. Was she pregnant?
She was. She was. Actually, the dad had to apologize.
That's what the lawsuit came out for.
Yeah. So basically, so that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about is you can get ahead. So with AI, I think media companies have to be careful not to get ahead of what the audience is ready for in terms of the AI systems that you're using. So especially around content creation.
It's so tough because in the industry we're in, obviously we're all AI forward and you're using it for trying to optimize everything. And I'm, on my Twitter, I see AI freaking everything just because of people I communicate with. So everything's just AI. You think AI is this huge mainstream thing. And when in reality, freaking 99% of people have no idea what the hell you're talking about. They know it's out there. They don't know how to use it. They're not doing this. I think now, it's kind of now with ChatGPT and all the press that some people are using that for basic stuff. They still don't comprehend what it can do, what it is doing, how many people are using it, or how it affects them. So when I'm thinking about it and I'm doing all this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, all these people, everyone knows AI. This is going to be perfect. Or I don't want to hide this stuff because everyone's going to think it's AI. My rap video, I don't know if you saw my rap video yet. I did maybe I'll get my editor on this podcast to throw it in here. I told ChatGPT, I'm like, everything you know about me, write a rap song, write a rap song about everything you know about me. And I wrote the rap song. I went to Hey Gen, which is the video creator or whatever. I threw it in there with my persona and I created the whole rap video. I put some music to it and I'm sitting there rhyming off, spitting bars about email and all this stuff and list growth and deliverability. Just pretty funny and amazing. What's one belief about email that you had, say, 5 years ago that's completely changed in your mind?
I love email. And I think a lot of people might answer a question like this by saying, why isn't email obsolete by now, right? It's been around since 1971. So 55 years. But I think the thing that has changed the most for me actually is the idea that email couldn't be impacted the same way that organic search was. And what I mean by that is, as organic search evolved, we all had to become SEO experts or at least SEO fluent in order to make sure that we were getting traffic. I always thought of email as a safe thing, right? You send it to somebody, show there's deliverability. It's been now 13 or 14 years since Google released the promotions tab officially. But today, I think email could change significantly in how it's read, and in particular with email summaries, the same way you're seeing overview. So the thing that concerns me as someone who is very reliant on email and very encouraged by email is what happens when people don't read their inbox. There's if you're probably familiar with N8N, and building, agentic automation. One of the templates that they have is a tool that sorts your inbox for you, right? So you basically give it access to your Gmail, you hook it into an LLM. It basically hides, if you will, anything that it doesn't deem important or doesn't meet the criteria. So that's the big thing for me. I think that email still has some level of vulnerability that I didn't think it had 5 years ago.
I did that with Fixer, and it organized my whole inbox with all these labels and I hated it. I turned it right off. I was like, let me go through my own process here. It was like, what if I missed something? I don't know. It's a little too crazy to let it take over the inbox like that. What's interesting that when you're talking about email, and I had Ryan Dice on the podcast, and we were talking about it, and he brought it up, which to me, it's like almost like getting full circle, where he said email was the original social media, right? That's what you used to communicate back and forth with people. You weren't getting advertisements. You weren't getting all this notifications from businesses. It was literally, you got mail, and you're like, yeah, my buddy, let me talk about it. Let me get back to him, So it was like used for like communication and back and forth socially. Then, he's like, then marketing got a hold of it and ruined everything like they do. So now you got that. So it went from a social thing to just heavy marketing. And then it got to the point where all you were getting was promos and marketing from businesses that you might have purchased or got services from in the past, or transactional things. And the whole communication part kind of lost its luster, and the type of emails that people would send out was all that, transactional marketing stuff. And then now in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and really heavy now with the way the newsletter industry is going, is now people are producing these newsletters and this content to push out to people, which is more valuable, more content based, not promo marketing and stuff. And it's getting more back into kind of like you were saying, like how organic search came in. People are able to like share stuff, and you're allowed to learn stuff from the email now, where that wasn't the case just 5-7 years ago. It was strictly a image-based almost marketing. Hey, 20% discount here. Here's this. Here's that. So it's more back to that kind of a communication channel. At Quartz, you guys are doing. I guess I know you guys are probably launching some new newsletters. Is there any newsletters you guys are coming out with or have recently launched that you're excited about?
So we do have a new newsletter coming out. Maybe behind the trend, if you will, but focusing on practical, crypto investment, understanding how that market is. So post-hype, what's the real opportunity in crypto? So we're starting that one. We are pretty excited about the Quartz Obsession. Is actually not a new one, but that is one that has very high engagement. If you're not subscribed to it, I would encourage you. It gives you a deep dive into some kind of a session. And then this isn't newsletter related, but we'll be coming out with a podcast mini-series with an overlap with another podcast called The Capitalist Hippie, trying to do something new in podcasts as well. And that'll be promoted in the newsletters.
This is your guys' first podcast, or is the other one yours too?
This is, so obviously we purchased Quartz last year. They had a podcast that they hadn't maintained in the last little bit. We're going to be bringing it back, but instead of, similar to what I said about with those sort of small topic, small audience newsletters, the concept we have is, instead of committing to, a podcast episode every week for the next year, we're just doing mini-series. So on a particular topic, this will be 6 episodes in partnership with this other newsletter, other podcast. Very topical. We've had our reporters doing some deep interviews, et cetera, around the topic. It's going to be around power and AI. So the AI power consumption problem. But yeah, pretty happy with that. And we have other sort of smallish experiments all the time going on in trying to understand that data signal you mentioned. What should our next topic be? A gentleman that I work with very closely, very competent individual, Simon, he's suggesting a true crime. We'll see if that happens.
Yes.
But that could be an interesting one for Quartz.
People love that. If you talk about engaging audience, they go mad about that stuff.
I mean, we'd probably take like the business standpoint from it, right? So some of the more interesting business crime story, but that's on the table, not approved yet. But heard it first here on your podcast.
You heard it first here. If it doesn't come out, you did not hear it here. Let's get into some other interesting things. So first, what hobbies you into?
For me, coding is a lot of hobby. Food is a hobby, but my number one hobby overall is drinking. Actually, it's terrible, but cocktail making and wine are my top hobbies. So yeah, you can't see it. It's just off camera. I have a bar, nice collection of wine over there. But I really do enjoy the art of wine, the art of cocktail making. A lot of folks will say that I tend very boozy on the cocktails, so not a lot of fruit juice. Most of my mixers are various kinds of liqueurs, but yeah, that's probably my primary hobby.
All right, so we a little bit of sommelier and mixing with a little mixologist, doing it all at once.
All at once. Yeah.
What's your favorite drink that you make?
I have like a top 5, and bending on the season or whatever, those will mix in and out. But massive fan of a gin martini, a well-made gin martini.
Okay.
So that's a big one. The Manhattan is another one of my favorites. I think vermouth in those 2 drinks is vital. So your vermouth is almost as important as your whiskey or your gin. Also a big fan of a black Manhattan, which the difference there is you switch out the vermouth for a Verna, which is an Italian Amaro, so a bitter liqueur. And then in the same vein, I'm a big fan of Negronis, which is gin, vermouth again, and in that case Campari, which is another Amaro. And then I'll also go with like an old fashioned, a Oaxaca old fashioned. Boulevardier sometimes makes the list depending on the season. So those are kind of
I was gonna say, where's your old fashioned game? That's where I'm going.
Yep. And a lot of times neat. So I'll drink whiskey neat sometimes, fairly often. I have a really nice whiskey that was given to me. It was someone had picked it up at a sort of a whiskey club or whatever, but it was a whiskey that's been aged 7 years in French wine barrels, and then another year or 2 in barrels that had been used for an orange liqueur. And so it's got this very kind of a orange underpinning to it. It's a bourbon, very nice.
Is it a known distiller, or is it just like some custom thing?
It's a distiller here that's local to where I live. Koenig is the distillery. I don't know how well known that is, elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know if it was like one of these major brands that you got it from, or if it was something like you said, like a local distillery.
I have it. I'm seeing it in my view here, but it's actually sitting on a Koenig whiskey barrel, because the last time I was at the distillery, I was there buying some whiskey, and they said if I bought a case of whiskey, they would give me a barrel. And so my poor wife was waiting on the car. I came out with the case, and I started to back into the back of the distillery,
string like this,
and then
case here.
Yeah, so I have a full size barrel now that I display my whiskey on. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
we every year we go to an away football game for the Miami Dolphins, and we went to Cincinnati, which I had no idea when I went for the first time that you actually land in Kentucky. But the day before the game, whatever, we did a whole whiskey tour. Went to like Four Roses, Buffalo Trace. Forgot which other. We only did 3 of them. Can't remember the other one, but it was fun. And then as far as your wine, red or white?
Both. Depends on what we're eating. And so my wife and I, we plan out our menu for the week. Actually, just recently started having AI help us with that, believe it or not. And then do the wine pairings, and then do the appropriate wine with the appropriate meal.
Nice. What is your favorite movie?
So this is a hard one for me, because I'm not actually a movie or TV guy. So I don't actually own a television. Might be one of the only Americans not to own a television. But favorite movies, it'd be hard to say. I think if you asked my kids, they would say The Incredibles, because when they were kids, or even in their teens, we ended up watching that a lot. It might be Moon, if you're familiar with that film. So
what
guys stuck on the moon. What's that?
What type of genre is it?
I guess it would be science fiction. So it's
okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, let me see if I can find the year here for you. So it looks like it came out in 2009. Sam Rockwell is the star and on camera throw. So that's probably it. Probably my favorite movie there.
Okay. Since you never watch movies on TV, what was the last movie you saw in the movie theater?
The last
you guys are way back for this one, huh? Like 10 years?
It's not. I don't know if it's been that long, because I'd have to think about it. It might have actually been a Wes Anderson, the one that he did about I think it was the Paris Dispatch. But that would have probably been the last one. So yeah, I probably see a movie in a theater once every 2 to 3 years.
I can't get people to go watch movies. My wife hates going to the movies, so she never goes. So I never go. I'll always ask my kids, "Hey, you want to go to a movie? Let's go." Now, what everyone's are waiting for, the story behind why you have a banana in your profile picture.
There's not a great story behind that. I just happened to be, I happen to have had that photo taken. It's cropped out in my pictures on profiles, but I was on my balcony, a nice day outside. My wife
Eating your
snapped
banana.
it. Yep. She was snapping a couple pictures of me because she does that sometimes. She loves me like that. So I just sort of presented the banana in her direction. And it was a funny enough picture that, that I ended up using it for a profile picture. And then there was a period of time a couple of years ago where I was actually looking for a job. So I had put together a new resume and always trying to stand out in those environments. And I had actually taken a picture and done a banana themed resume based on the picture. And it did get me some attention. Ultimately didn't lead to any jobs, as is almost always the case. Work usually comes from who you know, not just sending something out. But that's the story behind it, which is not a story of much interest.
Since then, have you worn a banana outfit for Halloween?
Never. You have to be careful, how you have to hold up a standard. I think you know this, but I have a lot of children, so you have to keep a standard of like expectation for them. And then number two, I coached wrestling for a very long time. And so I can't walk around my town without occasionally running into people who are now adults that I coach. So I have to keep the bar very high, and a banana suit would be, I'd never live it down as long as I lived. Yeah, I'd never live it down. So
I want to share one productivity hack that Armando gave me when we first started working together, which has changed my punctuality, we'll say, which is, for me especially, I got lots of meetings, which are on my calendar, which I know about. But unfortunately for me, the way my mind works, something comes up and then I just get sucked in and get blinded from everything else. I could be at a party doing work and everyone's going crazy. Like, how can you be doing this? I just block everything out. So there'll be plenty of times where I'm always late to a meeting or almost miss it all entirely. So you taught me how you're always on here early. How you do this? And he told me to every morning go to your phone and set up alarms for every single meeting you have for 5 minutes before. And he does that every morning. And now I do that every morning. And since then, I am always on time early to our meetings and everyone else's meetings. And I even beat you sometimes.
Yes. But it gives you that nice buffer. The alarm goes off. You have to switch gears.
Dude, and it's like that. It's also like that whole, like, a girl's on a blind date. And like, hey, tell your friend, they tell their friend, hey, call me at this time, so I have to go or something, So it's like that. So I'll be like in a meeting, it goes, and I'm like, oh, guys, we got to cut it off. I got another call, and it ended it. So them just keep on talking and talking and talking. So
absolutely, that's one of my favorites.
Big game changer. Well, I thought that was a good conversation. I hope people got some stuff out there. Is there anything you would like to share or plug that you haven't already, or where people can find you if they want to find you?
Armando Roggio is a fairly unique name, so you can look me up on LinkedIn. If you did want to reach out, it's just aroggio@qz.com to introduce yourself. Don't mind you emailing. Obviously, I can't be an advocate of email if I'm not willing to receive them myself. But yeah, I think this is a great conversation. Really appreciate working with you as a client, week to week. And so appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Appreciate those words. And whenever we actually get a IRL, I'm expecting some high quality drinks coming my way.
Sounds good. It'd be my pleasure.
All right, Armando.
All right, Chris. See you later.